and maybe you have a manager or a leader who doesn't want to listen, but do not be discouraged, because there's someone else watching you who might also be inspired to speak up. You're muted. You're muted.
Okay, can you hear me?
I can hear you now, yes.
I was saying that is where mentoring truly comes into play. And many people might say, are women-focused organizations really necessary? And how do they impact advancing diversity, equity, and inclusion in your perspective?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so absolutely, women-focused organizations are necessary, and I always preface that with what I said earlier. So, women-focused organizations is not about taking seats from men at the table. You know, I know this year with the protests and the heightened awareness, what a lot of boards have done is, well, we're going to bring in a woman and then you take a man off the board. That's not the right, to me, that's not the right thing. To me, the right thing is expand the table. Right. So women empowerment is not about taking anything away from men. It really should be about how do you grow, how do you make it bigger so you have more voices at the table. So women-focused organizations are important because number one, women actually empower each other, right? You're able to have conversations and have discussions about issues that are specific to women. You're able to, you've heard about peer learning, right? So we don't only learn from people who are higher than us. A lot of times we learn from people who are our peers, right? A lot of solutions, a lot of big problems are literally solved by teammates, by people who are at the same level. So women organizations are important because you learn from peers. I have learned a lot from people that I mentored. I learned a lot, you know, I was just in Cameroon this year, and I have to tell you, the young girls and the young women so inspired me and gave me so much energy. And so whenever you have these communities of excellence of women, it's very helpful. And again, it is not that they're being exclusive to men. It's just that today we have disparity issues at every level, you know, educationally, professionally, societally, at leadership level. And in order to fix those problems, which again, like I said, nobody deliberately created the problems, they just happened because of the way society has been. But in order for us to fix those problems, we need to get people who think similarly together. We need to get successful women actively mentoring younger women. We need to have successful women you know, showing by you know, how they lead, you know, and sort of sharing their expertise with other women. And so women organizations tend to be the best way to do this.
Absolutely. A great pipeline approach, because, you know, you have that succession plan and really mentor younger people growing as women. And as I always say, when you educate, now talking about you traveling to Cameroon, the reason you traveled to Cameroon was because you had launched the KWF Women's Foundation, right, of which I was very honored to be recognized as the August KWF Women of the month of August. So yeah, I thank you so much for that honor. I was quite humbled and honored to have been recognized as such. Yeah. So your motto for the KWF Women Foundation is empowering African girls and women in science, business, and leadership. First of all, tell us, what does the name mean and what does it signify?
Absolutely. So KWF, and I get this question all the time, right? So KWF is from a Swahili word that means kuwa wezeshe. And kuwa wezeshe in Swahili means to enable or to empower, right? So it's a very clear word. It talks about empowering people or enabling people. And so it's this whole idea of, rather than giving people fish, it's teaching them to fish, right? So it's really about their potential and sort of enabling them and giving them the right conditions to be successful and to attain their potential. So that's kuwa wezeshe, and that's the word that kuwa comes from. Now, kuwa itself means to be, right? And I love it because one of the most successful books, as we know, last year was, you know, Mrs. Obama's book, Becoming, because that's really our life journey. Our life journey is about, you know, what is your true potential, and sort of actively working towards it. And it's an ongoing journey. you know, that you continue your sort of becoming, but also there's steps along the way, like they said, right? You sort of tick boxes. Okay, I could do this, and now I've attained that, right? So I love this whole concept about to be, because it's really about wherever you are, how successful you are, or whatever you've accomplished, how are you impacting and how are you making a difference in your space? And so that's really what the name of the foundational basis of the organization. Our mission is really to empower and to enable women and girls to really meet their full potential.
Oh, awesome. I like that. An ongoing journey. Pretty much everything we do is an ongoing journey. We learn from our mistakes, we learn from the experiences, we carry on that wisdom to who we want to become and what legacy we want to leave. So that is great. And I love the name KWF, means to be, belonging again. So, well, you do have a strategic platform for the KWF Women's Foundation. Yeah. Many of them, but I would like to focus on the Niba Lightbearer Award. Could you please tell us about that program and how it advances diversity, equity, and inclusion again?
Oh, absolutely. Yes. And yeah, thank you so much for bringing that up, Dr. Gwanmesia. And I forgot the last time to say thank you for sharing your incredible career journey with us, you know, to be a power woman, right? You know, the whole idea of the power women is what I said earlier about being a role model and modeling and showing younger girls and even adult women what you can accomplish. So congratulations. Thank you for sharing that incredible story.
You're welcome.
Now, with regards to our programs, so one of the things that I found as I was kind of looking at, you know, my whole journey in diversity and women from both my personal experience, but, you know, I think you talked about the issue of the pipeline earlier, because what we find is that, you know, when it's time to fill a role, organizations go out looking for people, right? I would share with you my personal experience. Right from when I was in graduate school, I went to graduate school at the University of Maryland, and it's a public school, and I guess it's still the case today. A lot of public organizations, you know, you always need diverse committees, right? So if you're if you want to hire or you want to do activities, you need a diverse committee. And I was literally on every committee, every hiring committee, because they didn't have enough Black women, right? They needed a Black person and they needed a woman. And they're like, okay, you check the box, right?
Yes.
So yes. I've been on literally hundreds of committees for that reason. Now that's not right? You need to have enough people so you don't have a go-to person, right? And I think we see that with a lot of organizations today. You know, whenever you see, oh, you know, this organization hired a Black woman, it's usually the same pool of Black women. So, so what I've found in my personal experience and what is really happening is that there's not enough of a pipeline, right? Now, women's issues, and particularly, you know, in Africa, are huge and diverse, right? We have the whole issue of child marriage. We have education disparities, we have female genital mutilation, we have violence, there's all kinds of issues. And there's organizations really taking care of that. But I think one of the areas that we're not as aware of is when girls get out of elementary school or primary school, then what, right? There's a huge gap there. And believe it or not, the data shows that in Africa, there's actually parity now in primary school level, right? So worldwide, there's a lot of attention around making sure girls and boys go to school equally, because what was happening was that if a family did not have enough money, they typically send the boys to school and the girls did not, right? So, so a lot of money and focus was put on that. And believe it or not, Africa is one of the continents that has attained parity. So the number of girls and the number of boys in primary school now is equal in Africa. There's still areas in the world where it's not, but in Africa, they've done a really nice job. But what I found in the data is that as girls get into secondary school, high school, and university, they start falling behind, right? Especially in the areas of science, especially in a lot of these technical fields. We start seeing the huge gaps. And if you don't fix that gap, you don't have a pipeline, because then tomorrow when you're trying to hire people or you're looking for leaders, if you do not have women who are educated at the tertiary level, at the university level, or after women graduate, if they're not able to take executive education, if they're not able to finish projects, and then we have this problem we have today, which is that when it is time for recruiters to hire people, they're like beating the bushes. They're going, where are all the Black women? Well, nobody prepared them, right? And so what we tried to do with the KWF Women's Foundation, you know, the first one was the career seminar you mentioned, which we did in Cameroon in February. You know, the original goal was we're going to just work with high school students. So we wrote to high schools, we wanted the best science students, so the best student in math or the best student in physics. And then we also wanted leaders, because the other area that I'm really focused on is it's not enough to just be a scientist. You have to be able to lead, right? If you're a scientist leading a team, you need leadership skills. Or if you're a scientist and you're going to be you know, if you need to even lead the company, you need to be able to develop leadership skills. And so we wanted the senior prefect, we wanted all the leadership from schools as well. So our goal was we're going to get 50 students. Well, when we started talking about it, university students started expressing interest, right? And then young graduates. So I really found out that there is a huge need all the way from high school to even young graduates around, you know, direction and guidance. We have very smart, hardworking girls who've made incredible sacrifices, you know, gone to university, they have degrees, and they're either unemployed or they're underemployed. So they have jobs where they're not using their full potential, or they have jobs where there's just not enough opportunity. So this was very eye-opening. You know, we ended up expanding the seminar from 50 to 150. Oh, wow. We literally capped it because we didn't have any more room, right? Yeah, the hotel said we can't put in any more tables, right? You know, the hall is full. So we got all these people, and so the big lesson, and as I walked away from that, literally everybody was asking for a mentor. You know, university students traveled all the way from Yaoundé to Douala to come for it, you know, from Kumba, from Boya. You know, and so, you know, it really gave me visibility into what some of the needs were. And one of the biggest needs is just, you know, again, something that is foundational and elemental to KWF, which is how do you enable people, right? Just what is that little push? Somebody has an idea, but all they need is just a little push. And so that's really what the Niba Lightbearer Awards are about. So B was my mother's name. It's actually named in honor of my mom. But what it is that, you know, we set aside some money. It's 500,000 francs CFA, about $1,000, $1,000 US for each person, right? So we have a budget. It's not just one award, it's for different people, but you can get up to that amount of money. If you're a research student and you have a project that you're working on, I will share when I was in graduate school, I literally got $1,000. I believe it was from an organization. And, you know, that funded my research for a summer, right? So every little bit helps. And so, you know, if you have a research project and you just need, maybe it's a little bit of money, you need supplies or you need something, we'll give you that money. If you're an existing businesswoman, I found a lot of small businesses, very creative ideas being run by women, young women and girls in Cameroon. We can give you a little bit of money if you're looking to expand, you want to do a marketing campaign, if there's something that you needed to do in your business, we can give you a little bit of money to help you grow. Because again, the goal is that we want to have impact. We want to make sure that, you know, women don't fall by the wayside just because there might have been a little bit, you know, a little bit that we could give to help you with your, maybe you need a new computer for your business, right? Maybe that's the thing that's going to transform your business. So that's what the awards are about. The goal is to do stuff that is impactful. That's why they're not scholarships, right? There's a lot of organizations that give scholarships, but we want to actually be able to see tangible projects. If it's a research project, you know, the part of the application is a project proposal. So you have to write out a very professional project proposal. If it's a business, part of the application is a business plan. We have a business plan template. So even just the exercise of doing the application will teach you a lot, right? About how you position your business. You have to talk about your business plan. And so we'll fund it. And we think that this is really a way of addressing the issue of the pipeline, because again, if you're a research student, you're building your resume, you're getting an award, you're able to move forward. If you're a business person, hopefully your business can grow, you can employ more people, your business can expand. So.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you so much. Let me just see here if you have any questions. A lot of hearts. Greetings, ladies. Lorraine, you are indeed inspiring, but really no questions. So just some hearts and love you're getting on Facebook. Yeah, and you have Lorraine Shu watching all the way from. So, you know, what you just said, paying your success forward. I really love that. impacting lives, changing lives. And it's really true that a blessing is not a blessing until you turn around and bless. Now, let me just take us back to where we are currently in the nation. After the brutal murder of George Floyd, we have seen quite an uproar. And again, we stand in position. So many organizations, many businesses are really relooking at their diversity and inclusion strategies or action plans. However, I'm hoping, because this is not the first time we're hearing about diversity, and what advice will you give to these organizations, especially those who are starting new, that have never had these conversations? Because we can all agree they're uncomfortable conversations.
Yeah.
What would you advise them, or how would you advise them to get the journey started? And what can they do to best align that diversity and inclusion action plan that is sustainable, but also quite inclusive?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, excellent. And again, 2020 is really the year that is bringing a lot. This is how change happens, right? You know, 2020 is the year that is bringing it to the forefront. But before I answer that question, I did want to mention you, because I think you mentioned that Lorraine Shu is watching from Cameroon. And Lorraine is actually a director of communications at KWF. So I know she's probably embarrassed by me talking about her. But to me, Lorraine is really one of the examples of like what we are about, and this importance of developing a pipeline, because Lorraine is a college graduate and she was a blogger, and because of the way Cameroon is, there's really not a ton of opportunities, right? So there's this young girl who's very creative, very original, but where is the opportunity, right? And so we just have to know that Cameroon and Africa in general has this incredible young, inspiring women who are just bursting with ideas and with energy, and they're prepared, they're educated, right? And we just need to find those people and encourage them and empower them. So I know the image people often have is, people are suffering, and it is true, there's poverty, we need economic empowerment, but there's also Africa 2.0, what I call Africa 2.0, there's a lot of energy and dynamism and ideas from this young generation, and we all should just invest in them, right? Let's give them a chance, invest in them, give them the opportunity, and they will blow you away with what they can do. So I just had to get that in there, because I think that's actually a shining example that we can share.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so with regards to where organizations start the diversity journey, right? And again, Dr. Gwanmesia, you're in this space, it is not new. Even my organization, I think they had started over 30 years ago, and people stumble, right? So we've seen the cycles where people are aware of it. I think people are aware of the fact that you need to have diverse voices in your room, and you need to have people of different cultures and different races and ethnicities working together. And always the challenge is, how do I do it, right? So and does it make sense for my business, right? I always have to remind people, because in organizations, every organization, even academic, it has to make sense, right? Is it enhancing? Does it help us grow? Is it a positive? So what I will say is that step number one is always just educate yourself, right? Every other thing that we do in life, we tend to do the homework, right? So every project that any organization does, if they want to build a new building, they call in architects and designers, and they do analysis. So we have to do the same for diversity. You cannot back into it. You can't just get up one day and say, well, this is what I think about diversity and we should do it. So get the experts in the room, get people like Dr. Gwanmesia, and really study and say, what are the fundamental issues, around diversity? Because that's how it becomes sustainable. If you do performative, we've all heard this term about performative, or where you're just signaling. If you just do things because you want to look good, eventually it's not gonna last, because people get it. If you just hire Black people, or you just hire women, or you just hire whatever it is, and if you're not invested in them, you're not invested in their development, it's gonna fall apart. So what I will say is that for organizations that have not started the diversity journey, or who started the journey and it wasn't successful, because there's a lot of casualties out there, right? There's a lot of organizations that did diversity training, and then it ended up, due to moral license, after the diversity training, the issues actually got worse, because people went, now you've given me this training, So I would just say 2020 is a great year to reset. to listen to people. There's a lot of, right now, people are talking, so listen, right? Listen to, there's a lot of activists, but even not activist professionals, they have a lot of knowledge, they've studied these issues. So be very strategic about it, you know, get a council of people, or get a committee, or get a group of people to say, you know, what is diversity? What are the issues? What is our journey, right? And literally have a strategic plan for how you address diversity issues. The other thing I want to be clear about is that you do not have to be defensive about it. I always open, you know, because I run a women's organization, that it has nothing to do with, I honestly do not believe that men do not want women to progress. I've always had male bosses. My dad, the men in my life are very supportive. So, you know, people tend to be very supportive of women and of gender issues or racial issues. They just have to be informed, and you have to be able to present to them clearly the benefits of people getting along and the benefits of people working together. And so that really will be the first step. You know, the first step is that you have to invest in it. You have to get the right experts. You have to spend money, right? A lot of times, that's the other thing. I see companies go, well, we don't have a budget for diversity, but you have a budget for the Christmas dinner. You have a budget for everything else, you know, except for diversity. So again, there has to be a strategic intent. There has to be the investment. And if you do it right, you don't have to keep doing it, right? You know, I think organizations worry because, again, they go, well, we did this and 3 years ago and we're back. But if you do it right the first time, you get the right experts. You talk to your minority employees. I've done focus groups, right? You do focus groups. You really identify the issues, and you come up with a very clear plan. You know, every organization has different problems. It may be diversity, you just don't have enough people, or you have the people but they don't feel included, or you have attrition. The biggest issue is always attrition, where minorities come in the front door and there's more living out the back door, right? People are leaving your organization every day because they're not happy. So you have to identify those issues, and again, you have to be very strategic and very clear and very purposeful in how you address the issue of issues of diversity. You're muted. You're muted again.
Okay, I cannot agree with you more. I don't know why it keeps muting me out. But, you know, the challenges are there. Mm-hmm. But if you have a clear vision, like you said, mm-hmm. and you're purposeful about it with intention, it can work. But you also have to have the buy-in. And it doesn't have to be about the leaders. It's about your employees, your staff, what are their needs, what are their wants. So I always tell people and organizations, you have to take the pulse of that organization, what we call an assessment in nursing. Have you assessed to see what the problem is? Yeah. You cannot cure an illness when you don't know what is called, to develop a clear, sustainable action plan for your diversity and inclusion programs. So, thank you so much for shedding that light. Yeah. At this point, I'm going to. Yeah,
if I could just add one. Yeah, if I could just add one thing to your point about you said two things that were really important. So number one was the assessment, and that's why I talked about focus groups, because it's not enough to do a survey, right? Every organizations do surveys, and people are going to check a box on a survey. And usually the survey questions are, people ask, you know, like they say, people ask questions that they want the answer to. So even when you do the assessment, make sure you're doing the right assessment, right? You're talking to the right people. And then number two, that's very exactly. Yes, and then the other part. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the other piece I wanted to add was, you know, you talked about the employee experience, right? Because, you know, you can talk diversity all you want, but if your employees don't feel it, right? If the people who come to work every day, if they don't feel that their organization is inclusive and that they belong, it doesn't matter what, you know, it's great. It's wonderful when the stakeholders and everybody, the leaders signal diversity, but on the ground level, it's also about the employee experience. It has to be, people literally have to feel.
I think we're losing you.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can you hear me now? Maybe not. Yeah. So, let's see what's going on. Can you hear me now?
That's okay.
Oh, okay.
That's okay.
Okay.
Yes, I can hear you. You keep breaking in and out, though.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm not sure what's going on.
Go in and out.
Okay.
Yes, we can hear you now.
Great. Yeah. So I was just saying that also it's about the employee experience, right? It has to be how people feel, even if no matter what the leadership says, also the people every day who come to work have to feel that it's an inclusive environment and that they belong as well. To your point. Yeah.
Awesome, awesome. So you have a question on Facebook and it says, Dr. Lorraine, what is your take on the common say that women lack opportunities? However, we still find other women having breakthroughs. Yeah. You're frozen again.
I can hear you. I can hear you.
Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear. Yes.
Okay. Did you get my question?
I got your question. Yes, I did get your question.
Okay.
Yeah, and can you hear me as well? Can you hear me now? It looks like I'm frozen again. Oh, Lord.
Yes, now I can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, so I think, so.
Yes, we can hear you very well. So go ahead and just talk.
Excellent. Yeah, so I think the question was, we see other women getting breakthrough opportunities. That is true. And I think Dr. Gwanmesia opened with this about succession planning. So it is not enough for one person to have an opportunity or to have a breakthrough. You need to have a pipeline behind you. You know, you need to prepare people for success. And I've always shared that I felt I got opportunities. You know, I was fortunate in that I got opportunities. When I finished graduate school, I got a faculty position. I did not do a postdoc. So people, it is true, there's women who get opportunities. But if you look at a lot of times, these women, when they retire or when they move on, you know, they're usually succeeded by men. Right? You know, I think the statistics today is among the top 3,000 companies in the world, less than 6, as of last year, only 3% were led by women. And I think by this year, it's maybe something like 5 to 6% are led by women. And that is happening because a lot of times when women lead, and I'm not saying if you're a woman, you must be succeeded by a woman, but it's good to prepare other women. That's the whole piece about the pipeline approach. Because what is happening today is that organizations want to hire women, but they just cannot find them, right? You cannot find, if you don't, you know, they go to the pool and there's not enough of a pool. So it is true, women have opportunities, but we also have to be preparing more women and have a pipeline so women are competitive, right? At least be able to interview. If you're doing an interview for a leadership role, the ideal, women are 51% of the population. So the ideal should be you have 50% men and 50% women that you're interviewing, but that's not the case today. So again, to be very clear, there are opportunities. You know, the fact that, you know, there is a disparity is not because anybody planned it that way, but in order for us to fix the problem, we literally have to have a plan to do it. And you need to be developing enough women for leadership roles. You know, the other thing I want to say is that, you know, what they found in industry is that there's a ceiling, right? Once you get to the manager level, to go from manager to director, there's a huge drop in the number of women, and then much less director to vice president, right? So again, that's where the pipeline starts to break down. We've heard the term glass ceiling. You know, you need to have people waiting in line for these leadership roles.
Absolutely, absolutely. At this point, I'm going to tie this in and then I'll go back to Facebook. You have some other questions. What I wanted to say is these are the discussions that we're going to be having at our second annual Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Conference hosted by eUnity Solutions. Coming up on October 10th. Is going to be virtual, but come out, get registered. This is going to be a phenomenal. We have put together a phenomenal lineup of speakers from Logan Herring, Michelle Taylor, some big experts in the areas of law enforcement and legislation, education, healthcare, religion, business owners, and cultural values. This is where we're going to really go deep into these conversations we're having today. So if you're interested, you do not want to miss out. You can find us on Facebook. You can register on Eventbrite to be a part of this from the comfort of your home, in your PJs. It does not matter. So just join us as we continue this, putting out this platform where we're sharing diverse perspectives learning about each other, learning to engage, to empower, educate, and embrace differences. Like I always said, these differences are man-made differences. They were just meant to put us apart, but we're all of the human race, and together we can do better. So I invite you to eUnity Solutions' second annual Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Conference, October 10th, from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. And I look forward to seeing you and continuing this conversation. So the next question is from Ms. Darlene to you, Lorraine, and it says, what advice do you have for women re-entering the workforce?
Ooh, excellent question. By the way, I love that question. And I just want to echo what Dr. Gwanmesia said about her conference, right? So I'm going to get to Darlene's question, but please, be sure to be active. You don't have to be an activist in diversity to educate yourself. So join the conference, right? Make sure you learn. Because these are really impactful issues, not just for you, but for the next generation, your sisters, your children. So we all should educate ourselves and really, really become familiar in this space because of the structural issues that we have. And it's great that we have experts like Dr. Gwanmesia working on it. So, Darlene's question is fantastic because we're seeing a lot more of that, right? Especially in this country, but even everywhere else. A lot of times in this country, women have to get out of the workforce because of childcare issues, because of illness. There's all kinds of reasons why you may take a break. Sometimes it's even just for you personally. If you've had a really stressful role or you're going through a transition, sometimes it's involuntary, right? Companies lay people off all the time. And believe it or not, organizations are now realizing that people who've stepped away actually have developed unbelievable skills, right? If you stepped away for childcare, you've become like a super organizer, right? Because you've learned how to, you've learned how to manage the PTA, you've learned how to do all of these extra things, and you have a fresh perspective. So what I would say is that, now the flip side of that, of course, is that because a lot of organizations are still very patriarchal in that, a lot of times they don't understand, right? And I think the most common example we have is the example of the baseball dad, where if a woman leaves work at 5:30 because of childcare, it's a negative. But if a man leaves work at 5:30 because he's going to watch his son's baseball game, he's a wonderful man, right? He's a special father. Who cares? So we still have some of that. And so, like I said earlier, there's always the challenges. But if you're getting back into the workforce, the very first thing you want to do is go back into this space of self-identity and be very confident. Make sure that you pull out all of those skills and all of the things that you were doing while you were away from the workforce. A lot of times women would have served on committees, they would have organized things, they would have maybe run a business on the side. Make sure that you bring all of that with you. Because one of the things I always tell people is that you are not your resume, right? A lot of times people write a bang up resume and they think you're going to get hired off of the resume. No, you're not. You're going to get hired for what is beyond your resume. Because trust me, most people's resumes look the same, right? So they're looking for how are you different. And so knock on doors, don't be intimidated. The data also shows that women will always undersell ourselves, right? Typically, a woman will look at a job description and the first thing they see is the one thing on the job description that they don't have, right? And they go, I don't qualify for this job. Whereas men, on the other hand, do the complete opposite. They look at a job description, they can only do 50%, but they go for that job, right? And they're so confident and they say, give me the opportunity. So if you've been away from the workplace, don't feel, it has to start with you personally. Confidence, we didn't get a chance to talk about confidence today, but we've heard about the confidence code. I talked about executive presence. A huge part of what we women have to work on is how you present yourself. You have to project confidence. You have to project fear, lack of fear, right? I may not know everything about the job today, but if you give me the chance, I'm going to work hard and I'm going to excel. So if you've been away from the workplace, make sure if you're stepping away, make sure you keep your network very active. We talked about connectivity. Start with your network. You always want to start with people that you know. Make sure you keep your references up to date. Make sure that anything you've been doing while you're away from work, don't downplay it. Always elevate, right? Use language rather than being descriptive. Always use language that shows what you did, right? So say I led this, or I drove this, or I directed this, versus just reporting what you did. And keep knocking on doors. It's not going to be easy. You need to find the right organizations that are open to your experience. But the most important thing is that project confidence and keep, you know, it may take you a year. For some people, they're getting much quicker. Keep your network, you know, identify other women who've had the same experience, and always make sure that you sell your complete self, you know, and all of the experiences that you've gotten.
Wow, awesome. That's some nuggets right there. Self-confidence, going back again to that identity, knowing who you are and whose you are. I always say that. So you have another question on Facebook from Praxedis, all the way from Cameroon again. And she says, Lorraine, and you kudos for the good job. Question is, what do women need to do so they can grab opportunities when they come up? Yeah. What do parents need to do to prepare their girls for these opportunities?
Yeah, excellent question. And again, you know, Praxedis is a power woman, right? You know, talk about somebody who's, you know, she's in finance, she's in a field that is very male dominated, and she's actually a board member of KOA. So a really great question. You know, I know this is probably something that she deals with every day. So, I'll start with the first piece, which is about what women need to do. And it starts from young girls. It's never too young to start. You know, one of the stars literally we have in KOA is a 15-year-old girl, Brittany, who started a nonprofit foundation. You know, again, make sure that you do not hold yourself back. You know, grab every opportunity. If you have a mentor, use your mentor, right? You know, there's a lot of people who have mentors and they hesitate. Number one, they don't even have a mentor. So always look for a mentor. If you think somebody can be a good mentor, if you see somebody in a role that you think you aspire to this role, go up and talk to that person. The worst that can happen is they may tell you no, right? So look for these opportunities to educate yourself. I always tell people, if there's an online conference that is free or doesn't cost a lot of money, you need to invest in yourself. You know, opportunity is not going to come knocking on your door. You have to go looking for it. You know, and if you're in a meeting or you're in a room, speak up. You know, if you're somebody who's you know, how you overcome your fears. If you're somebody who does not like to speak in public, well, try it, practice it, right? Because the world today communicates in a certain way. So push yourself, you know, that's the very, very first step. Make sure you take advantage of opportunities. Make sure that you're constantly exploring, especially as you're coming up, because you have to do that work. There's no way out of it. You know, everybody who's successful today had to work for it. You know, you have to work for it. So look for those opportunities and know that there are people who want to help you, but you have to find them. You know, the world is not an evil, terrible place. It is a challenging place, but there's actually a lot more good. You know, there's actually a lot more good. So keep looking for those opportunities, keep exploring. And if something doesn't work, don't get discouraged. Just say, well, maybe this is not my best skill. Let me try something else, you know, and even very little things, you know, is how you walk up and you say hello to people. It doesn't need to be big things. So you constantly want to be building yourself and encouraging yourself. Don't be around negative people, right? Dr. Joanne, I'm going to use the term destiny helpers. So if you're hanging out with friends who keep telling you you're not going to succeed, you know, this is bad or whatever, you're with the wrong crowd. So look for people who constantly pull you and push you and move you forward. So that's for young girls coming up. For parents and for leaders and for mentors and for anybody who's in an opportunity, you know, who has the opportunity to raise young girls, the most important thing is do not hold them back, right? You do not, because your opinion matters more than you think. Sometimes parents don't, I always say this, parents don't realize that they are the only parent to their kid, right? A lot of times parents have many children, and so you think, oh, well, but to each of your kids, you're their only mom and their only dad. So whatever you tell them sticks with them. And so if you may not 100% believe in what they're saying, but make sure that you're not holding them back. You know, you always want to make sure that you encourage your children. You know, when I did the women's leadership program at Yale, and one of the things I learned that really shaped my leadership philosophy was this whole idea of positive affirmation and best self. So whenever your kid is talking to you, or a younger person is talking to you, or somebody on your team is talking to you, always look for the positive and elevate that versus looking for the negative and criticizing it. You know, I think a lot of times what people tend to do is, you know, we think we're correcting people. You know, we call it tough love when you're correcting people by emphasizing the negative. But people already know, trust me, when somebody is talking to you, they already know everything that is wrong with them. What people usually don't know is what's great about themselves. So you always want to find out what is it that is positive about this person. And that's how a lot of development plans work, right? How you develop people is you find what is the positive, what are the attributes that this person has, and really help them to bring that out and help them to magnify those, because they can work, most people can work on what is wrong with them. They know that already. They don't need you sort of beating them over the head with it. So I'd always encourage people to do that. Like I said earlier, if you have a team and there's somebody on your team who's very quiet, don't assume that is because they want to be quiet, right? Sometimes maybe culturally they don't speak up. Maybe they have, maybe they just feel intimidated. So always find a way to pull that out of them. It may not be putting them on the spot. You may want to talk to them afterwards and say, I know you didn't talk at the meeting, but what do you really think? And at the next meeting, I'll make sure that you get to talk, right? So like I said, we have to be purposeful, and we really have to be intentional about how we fix the issues that we have today with gender disparity. It's not just going to resolve itself. It's not just going to happen. So
yeah, no, we have to continue the conversation, the struggle, the fight to really get those issues resolved. But one thing that I wanted
frozen again.
Add to what you just said in terms of we see, the things that you do, evaluations. Because as an immigrant, talking about myself is not culturally something that I do very well, or people from where I come, Africa. Evaluation, you either meet expectation, you're thinking about it, and like, this is not really cultural. Everybody's going to know how to really sell themselves. Box to really say anything they want to say about this employee. So those are some of the things about employee, what is it called? What the employees really want, what they're looking for, and how we can better assess them and their performance. What are your thoughts on performance evaluations, being that you're also an immigrant and you have experienced it as well, I'm sure?
Oh, absolutely. I think as with every form of assessment, there's upsides and there's downsides, right? Like I said, there's no perfect way to assess people. We just need a tool, and that's what I always tell people. Your performance assessment is just a tool. It's not all of who you are. So absolutely, people have to be culturally aware. And I think that, I can't remember who it was. There was somebody who said you cannot legislate a lot of these things. People, again, it's a journey. You have to educate people. People have to be aware. They have to get the experience in order to do it. So it's a very critical tool, but it's also a great opportunity to have very in-depth discussions with people, and sort of put aside your assumptions, because that's the other huge piece of diversity, right? People always assume based on, we always, I'm sure you hear the jokes about, well, I have a black friend, right? Because you have a black friend, you've had a conversation with, or I have an African friend, then you assume everybody thinks like that, right? Or now you've become an authority because you've talked to one person. So, you have to be open-minded, as you're using all of these tools of evaluation. But the fact that, again, it is a personal tool, it's an opportunity to learn, it's an opportunity to be open. I always look at them as an opportunity to grow. That's what they say, right? If this time, it doesn't work out, or for whatever reason, you know that, okay, what are the learnings that I'll take from this situation? So I think it's very important to have the conversation. It's very important to be willing to learn. It's very important to be open. And most importantly, to be able to grow and to learn from that.
Absolutely. And I also agree that we need to have some sort of shared governance, because the people that you're evaluating should have a say on what tool is going to be used. But that's another long conversation for another day. And Praxedis says, thanks, Lorraine. That's the key word, confidence. Speak up and say, here I am. Be daring and take up challenges. And to add to that, my dear sister Praxedis, is when you get that seat on the table, you better bring value. Don't ask for a seat at the table when you're not going to prepare and work toward making that impact and the change that they want to see by you being on that table. So my sisters, yes, ask for your seat, but bring value to that table. Now, before I see when,
Yeah,
Yes.
can I add something to that?
Sure.
Because so that's an excellent point, right? Which is why I think when you earn the seat, it's even, then you literally know you've earned it. And Black women tend to, right? But what I want to add is that, and I always like to talk about this, there's this phenomenon of leadership loneliness, which a lot of minorities have. Because a lot of times you as the minority, you're the only minority in that room, right? Or maybe just 2 or 3 of you, and everybody has very high expectations of you. So there's literally a mental, people may have heard of this, called leadership loneliness. And so a lot of times, maybe the only woman on a board or the only Black person in a room, they feel the pressure to perform. They're getting pressure from their own group. They're getting pressure from other people. So I wanted to put that in there that, yes, you're going to perform, but don't feel like the weight of the world is on your shoulders, right? You're there because you earned it, you're qualified. And if they don't welcome you, because by the way, this happens a lot, right? People invite you to the table and they're determined that you're going to fail. So if you don't get the support, that is all right. Don't beat up on yourself. Have the confidence. Say, okay, maybe this was not the table for me. I'm going to find another table. I'm going to build another table. So it's very important to, because we always celebrate the first woman or the first Black person, and nobody thinks about the pressure that they're going to be under. So don't kill yourself under the pressure. You have to perform. You have to be important. Try your best. Do the best, but don't because there literally is a phenomenon about leadership loneliness. A lot of people suffer from this. Sometimes people crack under the pressure, and you just want to be aware of that.
Yeah, that's so true. And sometimes you become a threat by just being a smart Black woman.
Oh, yeah.
But what can we do? Just keep fighting, my dear sisters.
Correct.
That's all we can do.
Now,
before, I know we're getting, we're on top of the hour, so much to talk about. So definitely you're coming back. It's open invitation. We have to continue this conversation. But I wanted you to take this opportunity to talk about your mentoring roundtable discussion that's coming up October 11th. Which probably ties into, the last question of how does the idea of women mentoring advance gender disparity? And I think we've talked about that. So just focus on the roundtable.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for bringing that up, Dr. Gwanmesia. I'd almost forgotten. Yes. So we're having a mentoring roundtable, and October 11th is the International Day of the Girl, right? So we have March 8th, which is International Women, and then October 11th is International Day of the Girl. So it's a Sunday, so we're doing a roundtable on the 10th, because we do want to honor younger girls. And so mentoring is a really important thing, as we've talked about, right? As Dr. Gwanmesia said, we cannot overstress the importance. And I know we use the term mentoring, but it used to be apprenticeship, shadowing, whatever format that you use to learn from other people. Is very important. So we're having it on October the 10th. Make sure you sign up. The information is on our website, KWF It's on all of our social media platforms, KWF Foundation, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, every single of our platforms are on there. So sign up. We have a great panel of 4 women. I'm going to be moderating, but we have 4 professionals, including a college professor, but also someone from industry. And we actually have someone who runs a mentoring program for women. So I was a mentor in her program. She runs a program for professional women, mentoring professional women. And so tune into that and just really hear this discussion. And know that and it's really about how you leverage mentoring. So you may not necessarily have a formal mentor, but how do you leverage tools to make sure that you're learning and you're able to grow. So that's on October 10th. Make sure you join us. October 11th is the International Day of the Girl. Again, always remember that, we have to stay active in this space, and we want to make sure we continue to empower and enable girls and women.
Awesome, beautiful. So you all have heard it. Register and be in attendance. And Mary on Facebook says, I believe that sharing your road to success and helping other women, like exactly what you're doing, is a jewel. Oh. Thank you, Mary. You're very welcome by your kind remarks. Yeah, and we believe that it takes a village to raise a child. So we are all together, and together we are stronger. So ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the top of the hour. Lauren, do you have any?
Well, I just want to say, can you hear me, you?
Yes.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, so I honestly cannot say thank you enough. You have a tremendous platform You're doing incredible and much needed work. I don't know when you get a chance to sleep, right? Because this is a space where there's so much to do. So thank you for having me on this platform. I do want to thank my entire, KWF family community. Our organization is just over a year old, but the uptake and the interest and like hearing Mary's comments has been unbelievable. And we, as we say, keep empowering, uplifting each other, keep impacting. Every woman's organization that I've been a part of, has really helped to shape my journey today. And, let's continue to uplift each other. And I talked about peer mentoring. So, make sure we learn from each other as women. We're all unique. Our identities are all different. Let's uphold our cultural identity because we have jewels. We have a lot of precious things that we bring to the table that are very, very important. That actually will help to differentiate you. So again, I just want to really express my gratitude for so many things and for the opportunity to have this conversation. And just for everyone to be aware, if you're a woman, you're not alone. We're aware of all the issues. There are some gender issues that get more publicity than others, but this whole idea of professional women building a pipeline, if you get a good education, to be fully employed rather than unemployed, to be visible in the workspace, is an area that we're all committed to, and making sure that we continue to grow and empower women.
Amen. Absolutely. Darlene says, awesome. We're all stronger together. Amen. And sharing our strengths with all. Well, ladies and gentlemen, every good thing must come to an end, right? So thank you so much, Dr. Niba, for spending your beautiful Saturday morning with the truth on Dr. G. I am truly humbled. And for the sake of transparency, Lorraine and I go way back then. Classmates. Lorraine was one of my bridesmaids on my days ago. So we actually do go a long way, but it's interesting how, we go to school, we grow up in the same country, we go away, and we come back and find ourselves again together. So I am so humbled by all you do. I appreciate you. We respect you. We celebrate you. And I just want to thank our viewers as well. Do this without your support. I am forever grateful. And just to remind you of a few nuggets, just keep on keeping on. Failure is not a choice, but it is a choice for you to get back up and get going. Stay within the circles of people who you can cry on their shoulders, people you can listen to and will uplift you in time of need, not people that will tear you down. But we're living in times where we cannot let the opportunities slip through our fingers. This is time for each and every one of us to be contributing members of the table, to have our voices heard, to be a voice for the voiceless, because we can all agree there are young men and women and even adults out there who cannot speak for themselves. There are people who still feel like they're lower than everybody else because of the structure and the system we live in. So I am pleading to each and every one of us to do our part in our own every little way to bring change, to seize the opportunities and impact the lives of our children. We may never see the results of what we're fighting for today, but let us leave a legacy and fight the good fight. We can fight the fight not for us, but for our children and our children's children, so that tomorrow they will say, our parents left us a better world. Because this world can be a whole lot better than we are right now. But we all have a choice. We all have a say. We all have a voice. So let your voice be heard. Wherever you are, in any community you are, be a part of that community. Do not stay on the sidelines and say, well, this is not for me, or I don't have that problem. Well, another human being is maybe a girl or a boy somewhere does not have the food to eat, a warm meal to eat, does not have access to have been oppressed, but you can be an ally. But before you become an ally, you must ask yourself, am I willing to listen, to understand? Am I willing to go all out for these people and not necessarily about me, because the system has catered to me and not the other people. So I say to you, my brothers and sisters, we are living in times where we can all create impact. We are living in times where we understand that we're all human. First, before any differences that are man-made. Your identity is a hidden treasure. But until you're given that opportunity to be on the table, we shall not benefit from your treasures. So my business owners and leaders, corporate CEOs, if you're listening, tap into the talent you have. Bring them in, not because you're checking the box. Bring them in because you truly want them in your organization, and not need them. And provide the resources so that they thrive. And together with that, your organization grows and you benefit. And great return on investment. And I thank you all for being here every Saturday. And I will see you on next Saturday. I will have on the show Representative Sherry Dorsey Walker, co-chair of the Black Caucus of Delaware. And again, thank you, my darling sister. Have a good day. Thank you, darling. And thank you, Lorraine, for watching all the way from Cameroon. Love you. Thank you, my dear. And the show is done.
Thank you, everybody. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you.